Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and I really like multi-tools. I've been using them, well, since I got my very first Leatherman back in probably the mid-90s. I've been using the Wave, the original version, and then the updated version, and now the Plus. I've used the Signal, I used the Mutt, all kinds of different ones. But there are also some inexpensive ones. And what's interesting about this is you can get into like a Mossy Oak here for approximately $100 less than maybe, say, the Wave Plus here. $100. Now, that's not only just money, that's also attitude. I've used a lot of cheap Leathermans. In fact, like this guy here, this is the Fine Tool Corporation. I actually picked this one up in Nepal when I was trekking. I did not bring a regular large Leatherman, but I think I paid, it was less than $10 for this thing. It is not the greatest, but for most things, it's actually plenty fine. In fact, I was thinking about it, and I have probably, got myself out of more jams, or my friends out of jams, with super cheap multi-tools than I have with high quality ones. But I've also put myself in more jams carrying a high quality one. So there's that. But anyway, Mossy Oak has been really going at it in the Leatherman, the multi-tool space, coming out with some innovative ideas, coming out with some designs that are great. Now there does seem to be a trickle-down effect where really high-quality steels and designs and manufacturing, is going into very inexpensive tools that actually are way better than anything we had maybe 20 years ago at any price. Now, these are pliers. Yeah, that's true. But these are real pliers. This has a bit driver in it. This is actually a screwdriver. This is what a hatchet looks like. And this is a saw. But we stuff all kinds of things into these, and then we use them pretty hard as if they are these regular tools. So what I did is I went on Amazon and I thought, okay, let's look at the reviews. Not that the people always know what they're talking about, but I guess neither do I. The Mossy Oak 22-in-1, which is this, has 8,200 reviews. 80% of them are 5-star, 14% are 4-star. That means a total of 94% are 4 or 5 stars. 2% are 1 star. Now, reading through the 2% ones of 1 star, I'm not sure people know how to use one of these, or even what they're for, or even how it works. Some people were complaining that it was really too hard to get the knife unlocked. And the unlock is right here, not here. And they were saying they had to use an extra tool there. Some people broke them trying to do some heavy lifting as if they were using a real heavy plier. I give them some credit, for being honest. They don't know. But I also think that maybe people are lenient too. They're expecting less and they got less, and so they're satisfied. So a lot of those 5-star reviews are because it didn't break right away. But on the Leatherman Wave side, 86% are 5-star. 7% are 4-star. That's a total of 93% are 4 or 5-star, or 1% less than this Mossy Oak. And 3% are 1-star, and those 3%, well, this was 2% 1-star. So you could argue that this is getting worse. But I also think people would pay more, have higher expectations, and therefore are more critical. So I don't know. In reading through, I'm not seeing a lot of common things. Sometimes customer service, sometimes shipping, sometimes a better deal elsewhere, sometimes whatever. Now, another thing is, this is camo. And normally I'd argue that camo probably is not the best for a tool you're going to use outside, because you might drop it and not find it. But a popular version of the Wave is actually a black version, which might be even harder to find than the camo. I don't know. But anyway, so a real knife, a real pair of pliers, a real screwdriver, a real axe or hatchet, and a real saw will definitely beat out a multi-tool any day of the week. But do you really use it for that? And are you going to use your more expensive tool the way you might use something like this? Now, this does have a saw in it. I'm going to show you this. Here is the saw. It is a thicker, heavier saw than the Leatherman Wave saw. So I pull that guy out. The Leatherman Wave saw is almost half the thickness. it is really springy. It takes a little bit of finesse when you use it. It's a great saw. I like the tooth design. Obviously it's really similar, but the Leatherman is very effective, but it also is really springy, and I've seen a lot of these break. I have broken a lot of blades. In fact, one of the things with these blades, let's take a look at that, because that's kind of interesting. Again, for those of you who don't know, this is where you just push it and it closes quite easily. But let's take that blade out. Look at that. You can see the blade is almost twice as thick as well, maybe 2/3 as thick. Now that's a big deal. It's going to be a lot stronger. You're not going to be worrying about breaking it. I have snapped plenty of these Leathermans or knocked the tips off them. They used to have an even thinner blade. This is actually a beefier blade than, I don't remember, was that one? That was still a good one. But anyway, so what happens is if you have an expensive multi-tool, you might not use it all that hard. I have beat this thing up. I have taken it out. I have cut a bunch of wood. I've whittled a bunch of things. I've debarked some limbs. I've grabbed things with the pliers and really twisted. This thing is rock solid. Yes, it's made in China, but I don't know where all the Leatherman stuff is made anymore. And I did use this Leatherman, or this Mossy Oak Signal. Mossy Oak is, I guess, just a, it was kind of a camo brand, outdoor brand, but now it's being used for a lot of other stuff. But anyway, this was fine. This was great. It's way cheaper than the Leatherman Signal, which costs, quite a bit, about $100 more. But then let's get to this. And this is where I think it's kind of interesting. As much as I love, say tool brand versions, I think it's just important to use the tool. And I would suggest putting one of these in the hands of all kinds of maybe budding tool users, kids, if you will. Yes, it's very sharp. Yes, you got to be careful, know how to use band-aids, tourniquets, basic stuff. But one of the things is this has a lot of mechanical stuff going on. That's one of the things we really like about these. It's kind of amazing. The spring-loaded, big solid pair of pliers. It's got knives in it. It's got a saw. It's got, obviously screwdrivers, bottle, 22 different tools, as a matter of fact. And each one of these is fairly effective. Could it be higher quality? Absolutely. Is it dangerous as it is? No. And I've had dangerous tools that you just thought, I don't know about that. In fact, I've done videos on them where I was a little worried that that blade might not close all the way or might snag on something. People are pretty quick to get things out, maybe not fully tested, but this feels good. This feels very Gerber-esque. You would have to double the price. This is $29.99 or something like that on Amazon. You'd have to double it to get to a Gerber, and then you'd have to double the Gerber price again to get probably close to a Leatherman. That's crazy. Well, here it is. A simple, heavy-duty multi-tool for $30. Now, maybe it's also one of the what I call training tools. If you're not sure you want to dump that much money into a Wave or, maybe a USA-made multi-tool, start out here and see what you like, because there are a lot of different versions. Do you like the pliers more? Do you like the knife more? I was kind of more of a knife fan, and I really liked the titanium Leathermans because they had a higher performance blade. But I also wanted to be able to not worry about a lot of things, and Leatherman finally realized that with the wire cutting and had replaceable jaws, because I have busted those too. I've busted all kinds of parts on Leathermans because I used to use them really hard professionally. And guess what? I really think this is a solid design because you can use it hard, not worry. You can give it away. People can learn how to use multi-tools, and then maybe they can write better reviews than I, broke the handles off trying to, I was hitting it with a sledgehammer trying to pop a cotter pin free, or I was sawing a tree down and after about 2 hours the saw blade broke. I mean, yeah, that's always fun. You can overuse these, but in reality, what you want to be able to do is learn how to use the stuff mechanically with a mechanical awareness, but then you want to go out and do stuff. And if you're prevented from it because you've got, a $130 tool in your hand, I mean, people complain about a $25 screwdriver, a $50 pair of pliers, and then they go out in the woods and then they're trying to break up a tree to start a fire using, a knife. that's $130. That's crazy. I mean, there are a lot better options. That's where you go get your inexpensive little hatchet and then baton the heck out of it. In fact, I've ground this one down because I've busted it up so much. I've had to use rocks to beat on it when I couldn't find a good solid stick. But anyway, I like this. I think WORKPRO, which is behind the Mossy Oak brand now, is coming out with some affordable, innovative designs, and this would be a great thing to put in somebody's hands who is new to tools, or even somebody who is just going to use it hard and maybe burn through one of these every year. It's just a good solid design. And finally, if you are just more of the prepared side, not necessarily the used side, you live in a city but want a multi-tool, but you don't want a spring for a Leatherman, especially because you're not going to use it, there you go. Now I've got a couple of these things. They've both performed well. They've both done what I've asked. And they both are reminiscent of just a few years ago. Whereas I try to keep up with some of the latest and greatest, I'm impressed, with an inexpensive multi-tool. And I would have no hesitation of carrying that in my car as my primary. It just so happens I have plenty of Leathermans though, so that's where I go, in case I have to pawn one on the road for some gas money or something. But anyway, there it is. Mossy Oak 22-in-1 stainless steel multi-tool. Let me know your thoughts. And with that, Doc out.